Hi, in previous lectures we have seen the directions where we can observe constructive interference, therefore diffraction peaks. So in this lecture we will address the intensity of the peaks and the amplitude of diffraction, and also look in more details at cubic systems. So first we are going to look at the amplitude of diffraction, then we will introduce the structure and form factors, and then we will apply this knowledge to the structure determination of cubic lattices. This lists the references I have used, like the famous books of Kittel and Ashraf Mermin, and more recent books like Hoffman and Simon. And I have also used some internet sites, and I cite them when used. So we have already covered this, but let's go through it again. We have here an incident wave represented by wave vector k. We have a diffracted wave represented by wave vector k prime. So the the intensity of diffracted by this point at dV, element of volume, is proportional to the electron density at that point, and you have also a phase factor, which is exponential of -I delta k being k prime minus k, scalar product with the position r. So we've seen that the amplitude of scattering in one direction, in a given direction, delta k, represented by delta k, is the integral over the whole solid of this electron density multiplied by this phase factor. And what we observe is the intensity, so it is f squared. And you remember that this in fact is a Fourier transform of, so this amplitude is the Fourier transform of the electron density. So of course what we would like to do is, from this the observation of the peaks, reconstruct the electron density. But what we actually measure is the intensity, not the amplitude. So in fact we cannot get the phase, and the reconstruction cannot be achieved just mathematically. So we will come back to this later. Okay, so we start with this function, which is true for general solid. At this stage we have not introduced the fact that we are dealing with crystals. So any object will diffract following this equation. So now let's look at crystals. So we have our equation here. So we have a crystal, therefore the density, the electron density, is periodic. And this capital R here is lattice, any lattice vector. So because rho of R is periodic, we can expand in a Fourier series like this, and we have seen, and you can check, that the G vectors, so the vectors in the Fourier, the k values in the Fourier series are in fact the reciprocal lattice vectors. So substituting this into 1, we get this. So rho g does not depend on R, so it can be taken out of the integral, and we get this. So what is the value of this? So so we will discuss what, depending on delta k, what do we get. So if you remember, we have established already that diffraction, so non-zero value of the intensity, happens when delta k is a reciprocal lattice vector. So so let's see what happened in this formula when we select delta k equal a reciprocal lattice vector. So let's just take the term when g equal g0. So we get rho g0 and this sum for delta k equal g0 and g equal g0. So this is 0. Okay, so we have a sum over the whole volume of just dv. So this is v and g0. So we will have g0v plus this sum, but for all g except g0. So in this case we can show that in fact this integral is 0, is about 0, almost 0, because you have in fact this this phase which is changing in all directions. Imagine a vector in the unit circle rotating in all directions, so their sum is 0 in average. Okay. So if delta k is not a reciprocal lattice vector, we get f equals 0. And this makes sense because it is just a definition of diffraction. We have diffraction if delta k is a reciprocal lattice vector. So the intensity of the Bragg peak associated to the reciprocal lattice vector g0 is determined by the Fourier component rho g0 of the charge density. Okay, and so our intensity that we measure is this. So as I have said in the previous slide, in fact, experimentally, we cannot reconstruct rho of R directly from Fourier analysis because the phase of this component is not measured. So we have to use some model or assume some things already. Alright, so now let's see, we have so far not discussed the basis. Okay, so we can simplify the formula we have obtained by going further in the analysis. So remember that the crystal is a lattice plus a basis. And it turns out that the intensity of a given Bragg peak will depend on how the rays are scattered from the different atoms in the basis. And different types of atoms, of course, may contribute very differently to the scattering. So let's take an example. Here we have a basis. So this is one lattice point. So we have a basis of one copper atom and two oxygen atoms. So you see that these atoms may scatter light differently. So even though they belong to the same lattice point, the atoms within the basis can interfere with each other. Okay, and you may have a situation when they may just cancel. They may interfere destructively, leading to the no peak. Whereas if you had only the lattice point, you would have a peak, but because you attach some particular basis to that point, their interference may in fact suppress that peak. So this happens sometimes, and we will see some examples. The effect of this basis is known as is included in the structure factor S. And so we can even go further. So within one atom of the basis, you can imagine that the electron density, of course, is not the same around the atom, but some electron density at some point may interfere constructively or destructively with another part of the electron density at another place, but belonging to the same atom. So the influence of this is contained in what is called the atomic form factor, F. Okay, so let's see how we can include this structure factor S and atomic form factor F in our formula. So we start with our general formula here. Add the diffraction condition. So I replace delta K, by G vector. So using periodicity, first, this integration is over the whole solid, so we, of course, can integrate over just one cell and sum all the cells. So this is a sum over all lattice vectors. So we have to put R in this formula, so we have R plus R here and R plus R here. So we can actually replace R plus R by just R. It doesn't change anything, and anyway you can also show it mathematically. R plus R, rho of R plus R is rho of R because of the periodicity, and here you have IGR, which remains here, and then exponential of minus IG capital R, which is 1 according to the definition of the reciprocal lattice. So we get this, and of course we can get rid of the sum here if we know the number of cells in our solid. So we define the structure factor as in fact this part, the sum on the cell of this. Okay, so in that case we have f of G equal just the number of cells and the structure factor. So now we can go further. If we know the atoms that we have in our unit cell, we can set a sum. We can look at them independently and take their sum. So let's assume we have S atoms in a unit cell, so we know where they are located, each one located at Rg. So we can write the charge density as a superposition of charge densities rho J associated to each atom in this way. So just a sum from J equal 1 to S. We replace rho inside our previous formula of the structure factor, so it is the sum of the cell of rho and this exponential. So we take replacing rho by this, we can take the sum out of the integral like this, because the integration does not depend on that. This is fixed. Alright, so now we can make so R and Rg J here are with respect to an origin which is fixed somewhere, but it is more convenient to have an origin in the integration here that is the center of the atom. Okay, so we make this change of variable d equal R minus Rj. So in that case we have d here, right, and here we have R, so R equal d plus Rg, so we keep the d here, which is in fact in V. Okay, and the Rj will be taken out of the integration because it is a constant. Okay, so this is what we get. so we define the atomic form factor as this integral, so this one, in fact, this component, so the sum over the cell of this. So it is a contribution of one atom G. So let's make a summary for the diffraction from a lattice with a basis, or this includes when we deal with a non-primitive unit cell, because a non-primitive unit cell is a kind of contains several atoms. The unit cell contains several atoms. Therefore, you have a basis in that cell with several atoms. So the amplitude of diffraction peak is f of g equal n s g. This is the structure factor, and this is the atomic form factor. So these are formulas, but they tell their story. So looking at the phase factor here, this thing, this represents in fact the interference of the basis atoms with one another. You see, because there are the positions, their positions. Okay, so this is in the structure factor here. Okay, so this clearly shows the effect of each atom. This is a kind of intensity related to each atom and their phase, how they are connected from the phase point of view. Considering the form factor, it represents the influence of the atomic structure and electron density of that atom. So there is, of course, within the atom now, the effect of each part of the atom in terms of intensity here, and also in terms of phase. So this is a location inside the atom. Okay, so it is the same story, except that here we are looking at position of each atoms, therefore how each atom interfere with one another, and here we are looking at the position within the atom of electrons within the atom, so how each part of the atom interfere with the other part. Alright, so just a short comment about the shape of the atomic form factor. You will not need this in our course. It is just a comment. So this is actually what is shown in Kittel book. So this is our form factor. So this is the case where we use a distribution, a spherical distribution, symmetric about the origin. Okay. So in that case, you get this for the form factor. Okay, you will use spherical coordinates. You can try to look at this at home if you're interested, but you don't need this. We will not need this further. Okay, so this is in fact a number. So what is important is this. And just as a comment also, if you imagine that the total electron density were concentrated at the origin, that are equal 0, then this thing will be 1. Okay, so you will get 1, and in fact your F would be just the number of electrons of the atom, represented usually as Z. So the exact form of the electron concentration will of course depend on atoms, etc. So there is model. You may use some kind of model, some kind of knowledge, or you can fit some results. So it is becomes very particular, depend on the situation. So we stop our analysis of atomic form factor. In our course, we will say that it is in fact constant. All right, something else. Just in the previous slide, we said that we were taking some uniform spherical distribution of electrons. In fact, it turns out that the overall electron distribution in solid, as seen by X-ray diffraction, is very close to that of the appropriate free atoms. So we neglect, in fact, the redistribution due to the forming of bonds. Okay. So other some techniques can be used, of course, to find where the valence electrons are. So it depends on what you want to do, but there are some techniques, of course. Okay, so let's establish some formula of the structure factor in more detail. In fact, we know that the reciprocal lattice vector G is in fact represented by its coordinates in the reciprocal space, and those coordinates are HKL. Therefore, we can calculate the scalar product G with the position of the atom or J. So it's this for the for G, and this for the position of the atom, and we get that. So remember, we have some rules for A and B scalar products. Alright, so we can rewrite, in fact, our structure factor in this way. It's now a function of HKL. So we sum over all the atoms in the basis. So we have this phase factor, and we have the form factor here. Also a function. Normally it's also a function of HKL, but we will neglect this in the future also. Alright, so let's say we have now, let's look at a even more simple case where all form factors are identical. So we have the same type of atom. So we may have several atoms in our unit cell, but they are identical. So they have the same form factor. So now our structure factor becomes this. Okay, let's take the example of FCC structure. We know that in an FCC unit cell we have 4 lattice points. Okay, and we can locate them using the A1, A2, A3 unit vector basis, which is an orthogonal basis, and their magnitude of each one is the cubic lattice constant. So in this case we have 4 points, and these are their coordinates. One type of atom, so all the F's are just 1. I apologize here, I use N1, N2, N3 instead of HKL. So this is because in Kittel books they use this N1, N2, N3, but in fact it's not a good choice. But okay, just remember, N1 is H, N2 is K, N3 is L. So our scalar product becomes this. So if we replace each XYZ by their coordinates here, we get 4 terms. F is the same for everybody, so it stays here. We say it does not depend on G. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So it has become quite simple. So what is this amplitude exactly? Depending on N1, N2, N3, we will get different numbers. In fact, looking at, for example, this one, it's minus I, pi, and a number, an integer. So each one here, this one, and this one, is either a +1 or a -1, depending on whether this number is odd or even or not. So let's see. So this is again the same function. It turns out that if all nj's are even or odd integers, we get 4f. So all of this becomes 1 4f, and otherwise they cancel each other, we get 0. So at this point we may have a problem, but of course no, because the mathematics are right. But remember that S looking in the direction of a particular reciprocal lattice vector gives a peak, so S should not be 0, except if the atoms inside the unit cell interfere destructively and cancel that peak, and this is what is happening in this case. So we have destructive interference of basis atoms among themselves. So there are examples in the real world, even when we do not have the same type of atom in a unit cell. So for example, if you compare KCl and KBr, both have FCC lattice, but KCl behaves like in fact, a simple cubic, because K plus and Cl minus have the same number of electrons. So they behave very similarly. So they have basically almost the same form factor. So of course KBr is in fact also a simple cubic, but with a basis, so it looks like an FCC. We should not say that KBr is an FCC, but the basis is consists of two different atoms. Alright, so for example here KCl diffraction peaks only when placed by even integer. Okay, and KBr has more peaks. Alright, so now let's see, when we observe yes, okay, first let's see the conditions for different lattices. So we have just in the FCC, and in that case H, K, L are all odd or all even. If you make the calculation for BCC, you get the sum HKL even number, otherwise 0. For simple cubic, of course all will diffract constructively, because you have only one atom in the unit cell, so you cannot have destructive interference from different atoms in the unit cell, because there is only one. And this in fact comes from the fact that simple cubic is a primitive unit cell, so just one atom per unit cell, and BCC and FCC are not primitive unit cells, they are conventional cells. So we can look further at a small detail. It is a kind of mathematical consequence. Looking at the BCC, if you look at a 0, 1, 0 vector in the BCC, so you use the cubic cell, which is a conventional cell. This is not in fact a reciprocal lattice vector in the if you use the primitive cell. So, and you can look in fact at the family of planes, the 0, 1, 0 family. This family does not contain all lattice points. They contain, so if you remember, we have the cubic would be from a top view you would have a square and an atom in the center, but the 0, 1, 0 is just one side of the cube and the other side of the cube. It does not contain the plane which contains the atom at the center. Okay, so the atom at the center of the cube, it does not belong to these planes, which is violate, in fact, one of the properties of the reciprocal lattice. The reciprocal lattice, any plane, set of planes, contain all the lattice points. So this one will, BCC is this one, h plus k plus l is 1. It's an odd number, therefore no peak, which makes sense. If you take this one, 0, 2, 0, this is a reciprocal lattice vector, and give the diffraction peak, because the sum is even. And this one actually contains all the lattice points. So in the cube, the 0, 2, 0 is in fact a plane that is in the center of the cube. So it passes through that atom that is at the center. But it also contains each side of the cube. Right? So it contains all the atoms in the cell. Alright, so let's now focus on cubic systems. Remember Bragg's law, we have this. Remember that for a cubic system the distance between planes is given by this equation. So combining these two equations and cancelling the distance, we get this expression. So this is very interesting. We have this ratio is a constant. So if we can, so this is what we measure. We measure this, and our game is to find out HKLs using the fact that this is a constant, and then we can even find the lattice constant because we know lambda. Another interesting thing here, we can see that because this is a constant, this ratio is constant, when this increases, this also has to increase. Therefore, theta will increase with the sum of the squares of HKLs. So we can see that in this example, XRD pattern of NaCl powder. You see that here is 1, 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, and then when you get at larger angles, you get 4, some 3, even 5. Okay. Okay, so let's see what kind of peaks do we get depending on the cubic systems that we are using. Let's take some HKL planes here. The sum of h square plus k square plus l squares is given here. So in fact you see 7 is missing here, and we have two opportunities for 9. So actually this will mean that these two planes will produce the same peak. So your peak will be a superposition of the diffraction of this plane and this plane. Okay, 2 planes, 1 peak. So simple cubic you will have peaks for all the planes like this, but the number of peaks that you will observe, of course, because of this here, this will be the 8th peak, this will also be inside the 8th peak, and this will be the 9th, etc. BCC, so you have peaks only for this plane, etc. So this will be the first peak, the second, the third, fourth, etc. For FCC, your first peak will be this one. So remember, all odds or all even. Second peak this one, third peak this one, etc. Okay. So this O means there is a peak. The cross means no peak, and this is a peak number. So how to distinguish? Because when you have a spectrum with peaks, how do you know if it is a simple cubic, FCC or FCC? So there are some discrimination. conditions that you can use. So this one is a possibility. So you look at this function, and for different peaks, you look at the seventh peak divided by the first peak, and if you find that, you have an SC, etc. So you can use this, but the more practical is probably this one, the second. So here you just use the sequence of this sum. Okay, so you see that for an SC you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. 5, 6, then 8, 9, 9, etc. For BCC you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. FCC you have 3, 4, 8, 11, 12. So it's quite different. Okay, so this can be used to differentiate. And we are going to see an example pretty soon. One other thing, just looking at these peaks, you can look at the distance between the peaks. Also, this can give you an information already. So, in fact, the sum here is proportional to the sine square of HKL. Okay, because remember we have this ratio, the sine square divided by the sum is a constant. And in fact, for some angles here you can say that this is just a line. Of course it's not, but roughly you can say this is a linear relationship. Okay, it's a kind of line. So in such a case, this sum is linear with theta. So here in SC you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. So for these peaks you have the same distance between each peaks if it is linear relationship. Also for BCC the same, for 2, 4, 6, 8, so you have the same distance between the peaks. But definitely not for FCC, because here you have 3, 4, but then it jumps to 8, which is twice. Okay, so you will not have the same distance for the peaks. And this is the example of, again, NaCl. So you see that here the distance between the two peaks is this given here, so this would be for 3 and 4, but the next one is very far from the third peak. Here is very far from the second, and this is represented by the fact that this is 8 compared to 4. So this, just looking at this and these distances, we can guess it is an FCC. Of course, a simple cubic with a basis of 2 atoms, making it a kind of FCC cell. So this is a case of an simple cubic basis. So you have sorry, I mistook in the previous slide. It is an FCC with basis. This one is a simple cubic with basis. So you have indeed very equidistant peaks. Notice that the 7th is missing because there is no number 7 in the list. So these are the list of the sum of the squares, HKLs. And here just this one is larger because the sine squared of theta is not completely linear. So for the first peak it's not completely true. Okay, practical powder diffraction. So let's take an example showing all of this. Here this would be your experimental setup. You have your incident beam, and you look at where there is a diffraction, constructive interference, and you get your value of 2 theta. So imagine you would have either a CCD camera or a kind of photographic film like this. So this is S1, it is this point will be that one, and you can measure the distance from that point to the point where you have some constructive interference. So by measuring this you can measure your theta, and you can make a table your distance, the theta you find, sine square, then you calculate sine square theta. Then, so remember we are going to use this formula. So here you see that this sum, of course, is an integer. Of course, so this is equal to that. If we say that this ratio is 1 divided by k. So it means that this has to be an integer too. So we start with what we know, the sine square of theta, and we find that constant, k. So in this table, it turns out that this k is equal to 27.3. Okay, so you try different numbers, and you can find this. So these, in fact, are the HKLs. And now you have your sequence 3, 4, 8, etc. So you can associate these with some planes using this table. Okay, and actually you recognize immediately 3, 4, 8. This is an FCC. Okay, and with this formula you can calculate your lattice constant. All right, so just now some further details about the intensities of the peaks. Let's introduce the concept of multiplicity. So you can read this slide. In fact, the 1, 0, 0 planes have some particular spacing, but there are 5 other families of planes with the same spacing. Okay. So this dot should be over. Okay. So with these brackets we refer to the families. So HKL means all of these possible families of lattice planes. So so here there would be 6 possible equivalent orientations of the crystal, which will present the right angle, the same angle, for scattering from one of these planes. So there will be scattering intensity which is 6 times as large as we would otherwise calculate. Okay, and this is known as the multiplicity factor. So if you take another example, the 1, 1, 1 family, we have 8 possible equivalent planes. Thus, yes, so here 6, this is 8. So there will be some differences in peaks due to this already. So a better formula for our diffraction intensity would be this formula. So we have the structure factor here, squared, and we should multiply by the multiplicity. This is known as the Lorentz factor. It's only due to the instrument response. Okay, so sometimes it's corrected already, sometimes it's not. So it's good to know that it can be there if it's not corrected. So Lorentz factor is dependent on your instrument. So this is just an example taken from the books of Oxford. So basically, if you have your 2 theta between 60 here and 160, you can, there is almost no effect. But here it can be important here and also there. So this shows for different planes the multiplicity associated. So 6, 12, 8, 6, etc. And this, of course, which plane gives some peaks. So again, this is not just very easy to see, because in practice the intensity will depend on the instrument response, of course, and also form factors. So it's not just like clear cut. You will not find these ratios like that easily. So this is an example taken from the book of Oxford. of multiplicity and aluminum. So this, you see here the sum of the HKL squares, so 3, 4, 8, etc. So it is an FCC. And multiplicity, so this is 8, 6, so indeed this peak is greater than this one, but a bit, it's greater than twice, so probably it's not corrected by the Lorentz factor. Then if you compare indeed 6 and 12, so this one is supposed to be greater, so probably the Lorentz factor is affecting this, and this is higher than it should be. 12, 40, 24, so it is a bit greater, but not that much, so still an effect of the Lorentz factor. Here, and okay, not only Lorentz factor, it could be also form factors, etc. Here you have 24, 8, so that is respected, okay, more or less. This one is 6, this one is 24, so indeed you have it's more intense here. These are the same multiplicity. Okay, 6, 8, so this one is a bit greater than this one, so in this region it works pretty well. Alright, so that's all for this lecture. Thank you for your attention.